taking off to face your fears. A quest to find what's really real inside. Fight for what isn't right.
All right, y'all. So what's up? We are back for another episode of the Black Astronaut Experience. Super excited for the guest today. First, let me say that I'm excited because I have the ability to host today. So I'm not sitting here answering any questions. We just talking. Yeah, this one is about to be litty, okay?
Let's go.
If this is your first time watching this, right, let's just start off by what this is, because I want, before we jump into conversations and things of that nature, why are we here? So if you haven't heard, Kamal, can you,
What's up, y'all? I see y'all. What's up, America?
Kamal X and myself, Tiffany B, we are hosting an event. The event is called the Black Astronaut Experience. If you have not heard about the Black Astronaut Experience, it is going down 11/11/2023, which is a Saturday.
Yep.
It's about to be a dope experience. I don't want to give it away too much. Kamal, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so
okay.
You see our guy Mark here has already got the uniform on. You already know, we coming automatic. So that's this episode 2, we going in. But yeah, if you guys are new to the vibe or been rolling with us, you know, like this new concept, the Black Astronaut, is something that we've been building on and using it. Something that I was using in an art project has kind of like expanded itself to reach us in ways that I didn't even imagine, and to take it out of the shoes of what I've been through or what I'm seeing, but realize that we all have our own journey and we're all like trying to figure this stuff out. And Black Astronaut pretty much just encapsulates the journey of trying to find out who you are, going beyond, going to the great beyond, you know what I mean? Whatever that means to you. So from an artistic standpoint, that's where this was rooted in, but it's growing into something much more beautiful in my eyes, because we're coming together and we're sharing stories, and we're talking about a person that means the world to us, Andrew Kelly, who is the first Black astronaut in our lives. And I'm just thankful to be here today, to be sharing this moment with y'all, because none of this is like, you can't take anything for granted. So, you know, silly, have fun, I'm all about that, but I'm really silly because I'm just happy. Like, this is a beautiful moment, and this is a gift, honestly. And we know from life is like, you got to cherish these moments. So that's a lot of what this is all about. And Black Astronaut is coming soon, and 11/11 is going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
You know what I'm saying? Like, again, it's just an experience you need to be there to experience. And I'm just happy that you guys are joining us and learning about this as we take off.
That part, as we take off. We said it many times, this is dedicated, the event itself is dedicated to a good friend, a brother, Andrew Kelly, who this is his 10-year anniversary since he passed. Kamal has reached out to people who he feels like would be a good representation, a good illustration of who Andrew Kelly was. Those that are watching, whether you know him or didn't know him, I think that you will be able to catch the vibes. I think that you will be able to see why we are doing this. I think that people will be able to see why the event is even being dedicated to him 10 years later. Like, that speaks just volumes, honestly, in my opinion. And like Kamal said, we are cherishing these moments. Looking forward to a super just open conversation. The guys are going to be as transparent as they feel like they can be. And you all know I represent Living Intentionally with Tiffany B all the time. So I always say, turn your intentional listening ears on, because while they're just telling stories, I'm sure that there will be many gems that can be caught. I'm sure that there will be many life lessons. I'm sure that it will be a thought-provoking conversation for all of us, us sitting right here, and each one of you that is watching or listening. And we hope that these conversations, that the event itself helps be some sort of transformation in your life. We hope that it helps you think bigger. We hope that it takes you to like a galactic standpoint as far as how you are showing up for yourself and your life today, and how you will show up in the future. So with that being said, I guess we could go around and everybody could introduce themselves.
Yeah, we gotta introduce the squad, yo.
Yeah.
The what squad? The what squad? What up, boy? What up, boy?
Goonies squad.
In the flesh. Shout out to everybody that can't be here. We love y'all, but you know, we don't got no lights. Yo, but let's go. Who's
so
up?
who will start?
Who's up?
You want to start, Rod?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm Gerard. Man, I don't really know what else to say outside of that. Like like you said, Goon Squad, been a member from the beginning back in high school. You know, just been around living life, you know, and I'm just be here to get my experience, let you know what I've been through, like you said, how things are happening with me in my life, and you know, hopefully, again, like Tiff said, you start to feel a vibe about.
I think people need to know what Goon Squad means, like, because that's the crux. So Goon Squad. Mark, you want to go first? Introduce yourself, Mark. Before we go there. Let's go. Well, you gotta tell people what time it is.
I help ride out a little bit. So I'm Marcus.
MJ at that time.
It's funny because we sit here, it's like 20 plus years right now.
Go off, King. Go off, King.
Like, yeah, we
20 plus years.
Yeah, 20 plus years, you know, so it's a lot of history here with all of us, and I think that's important. But yeah, just to help ride out a little bit, you know what I'm saying? The Goon Squad is basically just, it was a lot of us, but it was mainly just a core 5, I would put it that way. And we was just always out, always.
And we're talking like high school. So this is like meeting up. For most of us, I think some of us knew each other before high school, but let's say freshman year of high school, that's when it really kind of like started to glue and mesh. And this is like a crew that just always, again, hung out. Think about the Goonies, the movie, if you've seen that. Any type of story where you got the crew of guys that stuck together and had each other's backs, grew up together, you know, shared truths with each other, had bad moments, great moments, amazing moments, all that in this group that we called the Goon Squad. And so Drew obviously was a very important piece of that. And, you know, it's even with him gone, it's like whenever we come together, we automatically think about Goon and those great days of high school parties, the college parties.
Trying to find that treasure.
Yeah, becoming men, you know, becoming fathers, becoming like just continuously growing in our purpose, our reason for being. You know, and Tiff was around. Don't get it twisted. Tiff wasn't a Goon member, but
first of all, me and Drew used to have conversations. I was first lady.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I used to be like, listen,
all right, go off, queen.
Listen. That's how I get to be here and host the conversation.
Holla.
Yes, I'm like, Drew, now you know I'm the first lady. Stop playing with me. Like, stop playing with me. So I think one, we could take it back a little bit. We could either go the angle of like, how did you all know Drew? And you all can give like a quick, you know, not rush through, but how did you meet him? And I'm also curious, like, how did y'all get to the name of Goon Squad? Like, does anybody remember where that actually even came from? Because by the time I started chilling with y'all was already calling yourselves that.
Yeah.
Like, and was very serious about it. Like, no, like, we are the Goon Squad. And it's like, okay, whatever that means, I'm just, you know, going to rock with it. So whoever wants to kind of tap in first. I don't know who knew Drew the longest. If y'all all met him at the same time, give us a little background.
I don't know.
I feel like I knew him the shortest. Like, I was the newest person to meet him. Like, I feel like y'all knew him before like I came along. So I met all of them, everybody. I met everybody freshman year because like I grew up in Elizabeth, came to high school in Newark at Benedict's, and that's when I really met everybody. And I would say in regard to Drew, you remember freshman year, like anybody that went to Benedict's, if you haven't, like freshman year, you're in a color group. And my color group was right next to Drew. So that meant every morning we're standing right in line, and I'm like pretty much right next to Drew every morning. And that was like my first experience and like meeting him and getting to know him.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't know if me or you.
I feel like, Mark, because I was the last person to be inducted into Goon. I was late to the party. So like, I remember I came back.
But y'all was LDs together.
But I known him since 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I remember it's funny because me and Drew, I got along with everybody, but Drew, me and him wasn't close in the beginning. This was like, I don't know what it was though, like, because Drew was always the funniest person, always everybody, like, life of the party kind of person from the rip. And like, I kind of was like, I was in the crowd, but I wasn't in the crowd. Like, you know what I mean? I was having my own thing going. But I think things started to click when we did Project Youth together, which is when you go camping in the woods for a weekend. And I remember Drew did it with me. It was me, him, and like a couple other people would do this. And this is in 7th and 8th grade, right, with Mr. Myers. So you're doing like camping, like basically like a black, I don't know, Boy Scouts kind of thing. Like, so I remember that's kind of how we started to really like click and like get to know each other. And then basketball, obviously, Drew wanted to be a basketball player. So just always talking about basketball. And I remember like freshman year, that's when things got closer because the way Benedict's is, you just kind of like you become
You have to.
cooler. Like it's just the way it go. And I think the thing that's interesting about with me and Drew and I's relationship is I was always cool with him, but I don't think we got close to maybe like freshman year of college. Like that's when, I don't know, I think it was something about like what was happening in life, because we both had questions about what is this ish for? Like, is this making us who we really are? Or are we trying to play to a program that's taking away our creative spirits? Like, it feels like this is jail versus something that's really elevating me. And we really connected on that. And I remember just like having all these deep conversations, just like questioning so much of like group think and people all dressing the same and all the things of like asking questions. And it was like, and that's when we really got really close at that point. So
Were y'all in the same space at that point, freshman year of college?
meaning
Like location?
No, he was at Rutgers while I was at Morgan. So
Okay.
this is like whenever I would come home to go party, pretty much. like that was kind of the vibe. Yeah, and then I did my sophomore year. I didn't go. Like the first half was my last year of college that time, and then I was back home. So then we hung out a whole lot. That's when I started real estate. Yeah, that's when all that stuff. And we got really, really close around that time. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing I'm curious about is because the name. Where did it come from? Because I remember I left Benedict's my junior year, and when I came back my senior year, it was Goon. So Mark, how did that happen?
Well, I think a lot of the Goon Squad came from, like you said, the movie, where we were just always at that point in our lives in high school. We were always together. I mean, literally, we went to school together. Weekends, we were together. There was not a time where we kind of all weren't together.
Yeah.
And and we was kind of in the movie they were looking for treasure. At that time in our lives, we was
You're looking for treasure, but a different type of treasure.
You know what I'm saying?
Just annoying.
For that fire.
Yeah. So
that passion.
I don't really remember how it came about, but I know it definitely came from the movie.
Yeah.
And just us spending so much time together. We were just always
It was every weekend.
Together,
Like it was
every
finding an
weekend, bro.
event to go to. Like I mean, we went to the Grambling football game. We went to all the Robert Treat parties. We went to all the ballroom parties. All the
Anything at the
anything that was going on. Anything.
They was outside,
We
y'all.
went every weekend,
Outside.
and my mom, she's pretty chill. So like my like room was like, it's like the basement was like our launch pad. Like we just hung out. They knew the code to the garage. Mark would just show up like, yo, I'm here right now. Like that was,
I'm outside.
it was like our clubhouse, honestly. Like, and our parents never cared. Like they knew we was hanging out at my mom's house. It was all love. And I knew from my mom, this is kind of interesting, but like, I know like some people like, you got them boys going out, they have parties and all this other stuff. My mom's concept of it, perception of it was like, I'd rather them be here and be safe than out anywhere doing this. Like, at least I know where they at. I know they're good boys. They're not doing nothing crazy. But I think like it's important to have a safe space to go just to hang out. And I think that's what I had at my mom's basement with everybody.
Yeah,
So
we
it was
loved your
always-
mom.
Absolutely.
First of all,
Yeah.
your mom was amazing.
Yeah.
She let us be down there every Saturday night.
I can only imagine what she heard.
That part.
Yo, hiking on each.
always
Oh my
there.
God.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember when Boyce and Mark Boyce and Drew used to go at it. I remember that.
yeah.
Remember that time when Drew had them cakes in his pocket? He had a honey bun. I didn't get that joke when it happened, like because I didn't think it was that funny. But then as years went by, I was like, he did have a cake in his pocket.
Yeah.
Like I think
Boys
Drew,
got him that day.
yeah, I think Drew slipped or something, and a honey bun popped out of his pocket. And it was they was going all night that night. They used to hike on each other heavy. What up, boys?
Yo, and I want to say one thing. Like, when I look at all our friendships, I always, because I talked to his mom one time and I said, Drew is the root
Yeah.
of the tree
Yeah,
for
sure.
us.
Yeah,
For
100%.
Because,
100%.
like you said, if me and you argue, you and Rod argue, me and Rod argue, Boyce and Drew argue, he'll tell a joke, it's over with.
Right.
You know, like like we're all laughing at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a connection for all of us, and he kind of essentially kept us all together still to this day.
Right.
Like he was the root to the tree.
Like he's still being that right now. Like look at it. When's the
Like,
last
this
time
is
we?
happening.
Right. Man, just got goosebumps.
So those that are watching, it's like, you know, these are things that we don't want to take for granted. This is why we're doing this. You know what I mean? Even to see you guys like laughing very hard about a honey bun that was clearly 20 years ago, you know, it stays in your mind as a vivid memory. But that's dope. Like that's
Yeah, we all
dope.
got stories
Y'all
in this
remember
group.
we went to the diner on 22 after the party?
Which one?
It was the one by your
Was
house.
this after the New Year's party?
Yes.
Oh, man.
No, we was in that diner and it was a black guy with 2 white women. And Drew was like, "Yo, I think he a pimp."
Oh man,
Yo.
Route 22. We're going to White Castle after every party.
Every party.
Every party. They knew us. The staff on 22, they knew us. They used to give me free burgers.
Can we talk about though really quickly how y'all really used to do a lot though? Like not even so it's just interesting because me when I think about the concept of Black Astronaut, it makes me think about somebody who does something first, somebody who isn't scared to take risks. And that's why I think of Drew. But when I think about like, yo, y'all went to like Myrtle Beach after prom for like Black Bike Weekend, and y'all was
Double tap. Let them know, boy.
yo,
I'm
that
in
is
red form today. Oh
That
man.
is hilarious, but
Yeah, that shit was
it's
crazy.
also interesting because again, Black Astronaut, the concept can be utilized in many ways. So while y'all are double tapping, it's still
Double tap.
interesting that y'all have done a lot of things before a lot of people. Like y'all were living. So I was just in New Orleans and we were talking about you, Marcus, but I'm like telling people from Hampton, because Marcus and I went to Hampton together. I'm like, Marcus was popular before Hampton. Like, and when I think about all of you all, you know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't have to go to college to make you. I think when Maul, you mentioned like you and Drew started to have conversations around like, yo, this is kind of like putting us in a box. This is kind of like limiting us. You know what I mean? It's kind of making us all think the same way. And I just think in general, when I think of you all as a group, you all have always done what y'all wanted to do. Y'all have always kind of been again, nobody is at Black Bike Weekend at the age of 18. You was mentioning y'all went to Miami in the episode that we did together. Y'all went to Miami at like 21. And these are things that...
They was 21.
Oh, Rod had a fake ID. He had Justin Locust ID. And then, I mean, we tried to get in the prevay, and the dude stopped it for a minute. He was like, wait.
This ain't right.
Wait.
Got it everywhere.
I think they both had dreads, so that was the thing. That was like,
Totally different.
and then I think Rod remembered his the address. Like, didn't he ask you the address and you knew
Birthday,
it?
all that.
Yeah. Like,
And you
he's
memorized
he's a
it?
Yeah, I had
genius.
to study it on the way down. I'm like, this gonna be a problem.
We got it, and that was a great night, too. That's the night I made it rain.
Good time.
I made it rain in the corner that night.
Not making it rain.
I did. It was a different time. Lil Wayne was just popping. It was. That's when it was. Rick Ross just got on the scene. Every day I'm hustling. It was.
This before everybody was really in Miami like
Yeah,
that.
this
Like,
before Instagram. We didn't have like social media. This is like you just out here with
This is when
camcorders.
college kids were still going to Cancun for the most part.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a different time.
Different times. So
To your point, though, I would say, because I had this conversation with them all the time. I've had it with Drew too. Like, in college was definitely a different experience for all of us, because we had experienced so much already.
Yeah.
You know, like we were out every weekend. Like,
was outside.
yeah, we were literally out in the Red Act. We out.
We didn't have to go to college and recreate ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like, this is what I am. This is just what it,
Exactly,
this is what
yeah.
it is. Like, you know, and whereas, and no offense to anyone that, you know, but I think that was why, well, for me anyway, maybe Drew and other people, like, even I remember you, Rod, we went to college together. I know Rod didn't fuck with that shit. Like, Rod was in his own other world, like, nah, this shit corny, man. Fuck all that. Like, you know, and it's like, because it's like, no, I didn't come here to, like, yes, I'm here now. Now I can be the man. Like, no, we already, and I don't think and I think the beautiful thing, I was talking to someone about this the other day, like, I was talking about, like how I wish I was more serious about photography back then, because we saw so much at that young age, And like, but I was also saying the beautiful thing about it was we was always just being us. It was never like we were trying to be the cool guys or trying to be the ones to get all the girls. Like we weren't just going to Myrtle Beach to show out to nobody. Like, yo, we went to Myrtle. Like that's something we kept within the crew. Like it wasn't like a statement for everybody to know. And I think because it was so natural, I think that's why all of us like to this day still had a connection. I think that's why we're genuine people in general. Like, and to this day, like all these years, like it's still the same vibe. Like it's like it's never. I know if I'm around any of these people, the people close to them is no bullshit. Like I know how we roll. Like we just not about the facade and the fake stuff. You know what I mean? So I've always appreciated that. And you know, there's other people like that too. But I just know in general. You know, because we transferred from, like, we had to, you know, and the college was difficult too, because at the same time you're dealing with that, there is still you growing up. Yeah. You still are becoming your own man. You still are, like, figuring out the way, you know what I mean? And having to realize, because relationships do shift, you know what I mean? People leave, come back, you know what I mean? So what was y'all experience? Well, sorry, Tiff.
No, go ahead.
What was y'all vibe in terms of that process of going from, you know, high school goon to like, now I'm in college and I'm figuring out my way. Like, what was that?
And can y'all also, while y'all talking about figuring out your way, like, how was it being a group that essentially kind of started to disperse? And, you know, everybody wound up doing different things. So, like, mention that too while you're talking.
It was different. It was difficult. You know, when you spend 4 years being around the same people, and then now you just kind of, and it was a little different for me because I was around boys in college, and I had you too.
The freak. That's an inside joke. I know you know what we're talking about. I'll leave it there. I'm not going to do that to you. Go ahead.
Leave it alone. But you know, for me, I still had people I grew up with, you know, came up with, so it was a little bit different, but it was, you know, relationships changed, they adjusted for sure. You know, because I didn't really, me, and Rod, we really didn't reconnect a lot until we became like adults.
Yeah.
And I remember them coming down one time. It was Drew, Maul.
Oh my God!
I think it was John.
That's the Hampton when I
was you there? Did you come?
I didn't come to that one.
Yeah, come to that one.
That's when I almost fought the football team.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Right. Like legit, John. What up, John? You know what time was? John was. We was ready though. Even Drew was ready. I saw he was in the back, but he was ready, boy. He was ready.
Drew was ready.
He was ready. I was like, yo, we're about to go. It's about to go.
Listen, that East Orange was coming out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I lost the keys.
I had to come pick them niggas up from the damn.
He was mad at me.
Yeah.
He blamed. Well, I lost the keys. So this is what happened. I'm gonna give some transparency. All right. So like we had the Hampton homecoming. It's lit. It's one of the best homecomings, right? Like it's lit. It's going down. It was the party where people dressed nice too. We had to wear like nice clothes to go in there, like casual
Cabaret.
nice.
Yeah. Cabaret, yeah.
So for some reason I had a lot of cash on me that night. A lot of cash. Like, so this girl, we were dancing with these girls, and I remember one of them was like, she didn't want to dance with me. So I think something was happening.
Yeah,
she was dancing with her friend, and I put all the money up like this in her face and started going like this. As she was dancing, then she started dancing with me. It was the funniest thing ever because it was like funny. I wasn't being serious, but it was funny. And then, but that's when I lost my keys because I pulled out the money, and then we never found my keys. So then we had to get a train ride back to New Jersey from Hampton, and I had to come back and get my keys.
Gotcha.
And Mark was out doing something. And we had to call Mark like our father, like, yo, could you come get us? Can you please? And Mark pulled up. I remember I said, thanks, Mark. Mark ain't say shit. He's quiet as fuck. Like, all right, well, we got a ride.
Y'all all quiet too. That whole ride, ain't nobody say nothing, bro. And that's the funniest part about Drew, because normally he got jokes. He was just in the car like, all right, bro. Now you don't want to say nothing.
Marcus is the friend you don't want to call. Like, you know he gonna come, but you're just like, oh man.
Do I gotta call this guy?
Right.
He's gonna say, well, what you do, boy? What you do? What happened? Why'd you do that?
How'd you lose your keys?
How'd you lose your keys? So the same night I almost got to fight a football team. The same night I did it was a wild night. It was different back then. It was different. It was way different.
Yo, that was one of the
We've
best
grown up and
stories
become
ever.
good men. You know, real solid dudes.
But how have
That was
y'all
a joke.
experienced? Like, Rob, what was your experience?
Going to college, like they said, it was different. Like having like your closest friends there every day, like seriously every day. Like there's no exaggeration when we say that. It was different. Like I still like similar to Mark. It was a few people. Like Maul was down there, Kamar, he was down there. So like we still like had people we was familiar with and we can be around and still feel that same comfort. But it was different not having like your closest friends always around, always available. And yeah, to Maul's point, like we went to parties and stuff in college, but it was so different because like. Again, we literally were going to parties every weekend in high school. So when we got to college, we was like, oh, like, I see what's going on. Everybody drunk and high. So it's cool now, apparently.
Right.
And we was used to just partying sober. So, like, I think that was the new thing, like, to go to college and, like, start experimenting with different stuff in college, you know. But besides that, like, it was, it wasn't as fun as I thought it was gonna be initially.
I agree.
Right? Like it took me some time to adjust and accept. Like, all right, this is the way it is. This is the new paradigm of how we party, and I accepted it in that way. So it was a little tough transition at first.
And I felt like I kind of miss my friends too in a lot of ways. Like, damn, I don't want to party with y'all. I want to party with my homies.
You know, that's why the homecomings would be so
want to go
lit.
party with the homies, the homies.
Don't forget, we went to black school, so it's like if you go to a college party, they strolling all through the party. And it's like,
a lot going on.
It's like, all right,
There's a lot going on.
I'm only moving out the way so many more times.
It's very Jersey, y'all.
And to be honest, this is why, and Tiff, you were saying this kind of in the beginning about like all of us being our own kind of like black astronaut. These are like real life examples at a very young age of being like okay with being different, being okay with listening to your voice, being okay with like being a standout, an outcast, whatever you want to call it, like, and still staying true to what like your morals and your code. You know what I mean? Which I think is a big part of why, you know, all of us in our own way of like have always like kind of stuck to that. Like it's kind of been ingrained to us. I don't know where it comes from. I've had some good conversations with certain, like me and Boyce have talked about this. He's another member of the Goon, and we talk a lot about our parents and our mothers and like the things they put in, like just showing us that love and like also propelling us and not being afraid to, not babying us, you know what I mean? Letting us be men, you know what I mean? Like understanding the assignment of he's a boy, like let him be who he needs to be. He needs to grow up, be around other men, like all boys school, like all that stuff is like important steps that if we never had that, I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I wanted to say earlier, you mentioned just in regard to us being out and like not really doing it for a purpose of showing people. And I feel like that's like what's happening today a lot, right? It's like everything is about, online, Instagram, like I'm gonna show people I've been here, I show people I did this. But like at that time, we was just literally just going out there to have a good time. It was like we took pictures, but we didn't make it about like, we got to do this to show everybody, right? At that time, it was like Black Planet was the popular thing. So it's like...
We was lit.
Yeah, we
was lit on Black Planet. I just want y'all to know that. The page might still be up. Look it up, Goon Squad.
Y'all had a Goon Squad page?
Yes. Rod, wasn't it Rod that was running it?
Nah.
Somebody was. I think somebody was doing all of the graphics. Somebody was doing code. Someone did code. They were doing all that back then. Yeah, it was a vibe. We used to get messages, and then somebody would try to, that's another story.
Somebody was managing the page.
Somebody was managing the page back then.
But to that point, it was just like, it wasn't about like posting stuff on Black Planet or MySpace or anything like that. It was just about going out and having a good time, and it just bringing the conversation back to Drew, like. That's how Drew was in general, right? Like I feel like I was thinking about this earlier. Just the path that Drew took. Like we say, he is the first black astronaut that most of us knew. Like I remember Drew dropped out of college. Like he had one semester left to get his degree. He was like, no, I'm pursuing clothes. And again, like to your point, like he became a black astronaut pretty early on. And just stayed headstrong to like what he was doing and was making his name like in the streets, like with people, right? Like back in the 90s and the 80s, right? You had to be outside and making your name that way. Whereas like today, everybody trying to make their name online, Whereas like Drew was like one of those first people that's like he was still getting his name out there like in the streets like with what he's doing. So like, and we could take that back to like him dancing, right? Y'all remember like
He was pop blocking. There's still videos online.
Exactly.
Still
Like
on
he taught
YouTube.
himself, like self-taught. I remember he didn't know how to do that, right? And like he literally taught himself how to dance, and that was his persona for
He was
a while.
battling in
For a while.
in the big parties, like battling. He was known like as the pop block dude. Like,
You know what I wish
He did
Drew
a
would have
fashion
actually
show
did
too, I
Exactly.
think.
is become a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Swear to
That was-
God.
he probably would have done it by now. Like I feel like he would have like got into it.
Funniest
for sure.
person I ever met in my life.
By
Period.
far.
He
By
taught me how to
far.
be funny.
Still to
Let
this
me be
day.
honest. I learned how to be funny from Drew. I swear to
Yeah.
God. Like after just watching the way he moves, I was like, okay, that's how you do it. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, by far the funniest person. Now, I wish he would have been a stand-up comedian.
By
'cause
far.
I feel like you all still carry that same energy though. Like when I think about you all now, y'all don't really post much on IG, and y'all like doing stuff. Got lives, got jobs, got families, still traveling and things of that nature. So it makes me think like who you were then. Do you feel like, and I mean, obviously we all have grown and matured, but how has that shaped who you all are like currently in your life right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I don't know. Like I feel like personally for me, I really never in the past put much thought into that type of thing. Whereas like now I'm more aware of like what I'm trying to implement in my life. And yeah, so I would say prior to like a few years ago, I would say I was just kind of flying, by the wings of my seat, like they say, just kind of going through life and figuring it out. And I think the older you get, like the more mistakes or the more experiences you have, you start to hopefully look inward and try to figure some things out about yourself. And that's what I've been trying to do.
What you trying to implement right now?
A lot of things in general, like I have a tendency when I make decisions to kind of take it real slow. Like, so I'm real slow to make decisions about stuff a lot of times. So I'm trying to, be quicker in terms of my decisiveness. And outside of that, just storytelling, right? Like, I think a lot of times, like, we having these conversations and we sharing stories, but there's a way to share your story to kind of get the response or kind of get the connection with people that you're looking for. So I feel like a big thing for me right now is just being able to better tell, the stories I've experienced, so that way I can, express myself better to people.
I love it. I love it. What about y'all?
You looking at me, Mark? All right. I'll go. So the question is,
How have your past experiences, you guys were
foster
talking.
who I am today.
Yeah. Yep.
Honestly, niggas was lying. I'm like, I swear to God, like, this is why I think it's so important for people to, like, not pay attention to what everybody trying to tell you. You even were talking about this I saw that on your clip on IG about not listening to what people have to say. Like, people will, like, even if someone seems confident in what they're saying, that don't mean that has anything to do with your life. I'm not even saying if they might not be lying, maybe they really believe that, but that doesn't mean it has to be your reality. When I was growing up, like in that age, I was extremely confused because the world that they were telling me the role I had to play to be a part of this world did not fit who I knew I was. And I didn't even know who I was, but I knew I wasn't that. It never made no sense to me. I'm looking at it like, no, this don't make sense. I've been to, and I say this with pride, I've been to 5 different universities. I done gotten to Morehouse, all that shit. Like I'm sitting in there and I'm just like, this ain't it. Like, I know I get good grades, I can go do this shit, but it's like, this don't feel like me. And I realized for me, and this isn't for everybody, but for me, I had to like just go inward and like stop paying attention to everything that they're telling me. And like once I really just started living for myself and like honoring and owning that and like being okay with going into the unknown, having faith, like finding faith that makes sense to me also. Like my relationship with God doesn't have to be reflected in how I explain it to you and you getting it. You know what I mean? Not having to prove it. And I grew up in the church. You know what I mean? So like I've just always found that there were so many forces around me telling me how I should be. And I think it was out of love, but it didn't fit who I was. So the person I am today is like, I'm happy they were like that because it kind of forced me to break out of it, because I had the route where I could have stayed. I could have stayed in real estate and been a real estate broker. I could have rolled out and just done that. Like, and I said no. And I left Jersey, went to Atlanta, like started all over again. And like, I tell my mom this all the time, like when I was traveling the world, and my mom loves me to death and supports me 100%. But when it came to me traveling the world, she did not understand that. Every time I didn't even tell her. I would be in Egypt or something. I couldn't even tell her where I was at. I had to lie and say I was in Miami. Like, I could not say where all the places I was going, because it bothered her for a multitude of reasons. But when I see where I am today, where Black Astronaut is my second book that's going to be published internationally, and like the fact that I got the copy this week, and it's like amazing. I'm looking at this in my hands, like, yo, that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all those decisions I made. So even pushing back on my own mom. So like, I've just kind of learned, like, you know, the importance of just being honest with yourself, no matter who it is. If it don't make sense to you, like, that doesn't mean that, like, I don't know, something's wrong with you. There might be a real treasure. It might be a real answer for you. And I think that's led me to the person I am today. And to this day, like, I'm open, I'm cool with everything, but like, I know when it comes down to what I need to do, I'm gonna do what I need to do. Like, I've just really learned the importance of that, because I'm happier when I'm doing that. Like, I've had successes in places where everyone else thought it was the thing to do. Like, even in college, right? Like, yo, you know, and I'm not trying to talk ish. Like, I was very like, I had a lot going on in college. And like, and I remember feeling like this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I was being natural, but like, other people looked at it like, yo, I want to be like you. And I'm like, this shit don't even feel that cool. Like, honestly, it's like, it's happening, but like, this don't make me feel alive. Like, this shit is depressing, honestly. Like, I can't go. So like, I had to like, let that shit go. Where other people, and I realized, damn, I don't have to be this symbol that other people think I should be, because they think that's what I should be. Like, be what makes sense to you. And that's just been my mantra moving forward, and it's worked for me. And yeah, that's the vibe. So niggas be lying. So and I mean that with love. Y'all know I'll just be playing. But like, seriously, like, listen to your heart, yo. Listen to your heart, for real.
That was giving a Black Astronaut mic drop for me, though, because you are explaining it, and as we know, that's much harder said than done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, again, when you think about Black Astronaut doing things that people don't necessarily do, so having conversations with your parents or having conversations with loved ones who it feels like it is love, because that's all they know. You know, go to college. We are literally, those who are watching, you are looking at 4 people who are from an urban area. 4 people who didn't have to make it to where we are right now, whether that is death, jail, pregnancy, whatever it is that's under the sun that could have taken us, gangs that could, really could have taken us down. It didn't. So it didn't to get to college and keep moving on, but then to still have the ability to be like, yo, this don't feel good. And even if it looks quote unquote good to everybody who's watching, if it don't feel good to you, then you might need to pivot with purpose instead of sticking in something that doesn't necessarily, I don't want to say it doesn't serve you, because does college serve you? It does, but it might not serve you in the capacity that you actually need it to serve you. So again, that was definitely a Black Astronaut mic drop.
And I love how you put that together, because these are like, college is just a microcosm. It's just a experience. The same ideology that we're talking about can go into your relationship, to your career, to your relationship with
you
health,
mentioned spirituality,
like, whatever it
religion.
is. Like, don't just look at your life and look at the paradigms you've created and ask yourself, like, yo, is this, and just be honest about it. And that faith word is real. I was listening to Steve Harvey this morning, and like, he said something cool. He said, first you need to find hope. And then he was like, then hope elevates to belief. And I never heard it like that. Like, it's one thing to hope for something. It's another thing to believe in something and have faith in something. And like, sometimes I think that's the way it has to be. Sometimes you got to hope for something better and then realize like it's okay to like start there, but then it builds. Like, you're not going to be left here alone. Like, there's a route for you. There's a place for you. Like, there just is. I believe that, so yeah.
And I feel like that's the biggest thing I learned from Drew, right? Like I said, he dropped out of school to start his clothing business. And I remember I'm just like, man, you got 1 semester left. Like, just finish that semester, have something to fall back on. And he was like, just like, no, like this what I'm doing. And in that moment, like I didn't completely understand, but you know, now that I'm an adult, like again, 20 years later, I can clearly see that he made the right choice, right? He, you know,
imagine it.
yeah, like
Wow.
if he would have kept
Wow.
going like on the path that he was on, and then just thinking about his circle at that time, right? Like his college friends and people that, you know, he was pursuing that dream with, they're doing very well for themselves. So it's good to see that, you know, he was on the right path. It just took me some time to catch up to completely understand what he was doing. So to your point, like Drew has been a black astronaut like for us for a long time.
100%.
That part.
Facts.
And that also brings up a good point. People may not always understand what you're doing. And it may not be for them to understand. Even us doing this right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It came about from Kamal posting something on Instagram to be like, yo, do you want to collab? We had no idea that it would bring us to this point. And in the beginning, if we would have started to tell people, they might have been like, y'all about to collab? Why? You know what I mean? So what y'all about to do? Or, you know, and then maybe even try to dictate what it would turn into being. And it's just like, sometimes you just got to make moves for yourself and go off of what actually feels good for your soul, and just being like, you know what, I'm going to keep pursuing it. Now you got to do the work. We have been planning this entire thing that has grown probably since like March. Like dedicated every 2 weeks. Yo, we on a Zoom together.
Right.
Like, what's up? We putting in the work for it. But again, we could have told people could have been like, you sure? I mean, whatever. And look at what it's turning into. Just even having this conversation that will forever be etched in time. It's already been gems that y'all have been dropping. So I know that it's going to bless somebody who's listening, and it's going to bless us too. We going to walk away from this and be like, dang, like, look at what Drew has made us do once again. You know what I mean? Once again, 10 years later, to be open and have conversations, and really it causes self-reflection on like, yo, what Kamal is saying, what all of you all are saying, how you were, what it took for you to get here, how it was challenging, but still pushing through. So yeah, so Mark, you got anything on how your experiences before have essentially like helped you grow and foster into who you are now?
Excuse me. As far as past experiences, wow. I could say that I've learned, specifically to Drew, one thing is just be yourself. Because I've always struggled with that. Like, I try and accommodate other people. You know, and I've had this conversation with several people, other people anyway. But one thing I've learned from him is just be yourself. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. But just continuously be who you are. You know, don't try and alter yourself to accommodate other people. And that's what I've learned from my past experiences of just trying to do that, you know.
I want to ask you all, with that being said, because I think that is dope. Do you all feel like you know who you are? Because I think that's also interesting. The only reason I'm asking, because I think that is a great point, like be yourself. But I think there are many people who don't necessarily know who they are, because like to Kamal's point about the just go to college, and then it became, okay, you could be a realtor and, you know, go the path of being a broker. And sometimes we have all of these outside influences and it becomes hard to know who we are exactly. So do you all, and it's no right or wrong answer, but do you all in this season, in this moment, feel like you know who you are?
Personally, I would say in general, yes. But I would also add to it that it's always a work in progress, like always. Like I don't ever think knowing yourself is a complete process. I don't think you just finally be like, oh, I completely know myself. It's just like, no, because, you know, different situations are going to bring different sides of you out that you probably never even seen before. So I feel like, it's always a work in progress. And in terms of like knowing, I feel like in terms of knowing who you are, I think just certain times, like when these situations present themselves, like it's something in you that's telling you like no or yes. And it's, you know, it's easy to just go with that because usually that's yourself talking. But I know for me personally, sometimes, like you mentioned, about how you guys kind of kept it close that you were collabing, right? I understand that, right? Because sometimes when you do mention things to other people, you start to get these voices and these opinions from other places that could put doubt in what you're doing for yourself, right? And for me personally, when I'm really trying to make a decision, like I may ask questions initially, but at some point I get to the point where I'm just like, all right, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. I just need to sit with myself and figure this out at this point. And that just helps me to filter out like all the noise that I'm getting from other people to make sure that I'm making the decision for me and not for everybody else. But
yeah, I completely agree with what you said, bro. Like, I know who I am as a man, but there's always things you can work on to better yourself. And you know, I'm a big talker a lot of times too, and I like other people's perspectives because that's how you become a better person. As far as I'm concerned, it's just, you know, all right, what do you think, Rod? What do you think, Maul? What do you think, Tiff? All right, and let me incorporate that into how I can develop as a person. Because I'm not always going to be right on everything. I might think I am, but I'm not, you know. So, completely agree. Completely.
You know how like the cycle of life goes where like, you know, like you come in the world as a baby and you need, like you can't do anything on your own. And then if you're blessed enough to go to the end of your road, you end up in the same space. I think like when it comes to who you are, there's a point of like, and Rod kind of really got into it too, where it was like, yeah, I know who I am, but there's also space. There's also this unlimited reality of like whatever it needs to be. You know what I mean? It's the possibility. Like, so I feel like for me, like I definitely know who I am. And I've spent a lot of time, that's kind of been the thing that helped keep me grounded, honestly, throughout it all. Like, throughout all the adversities and weird, crazy stuff happening with me. Like, that was the one thing that I found out because I got pulled out of school. Like, school wasn't like I just left. Like, I had to go. Like, it was like, no, he's crazy. Get him out. He needs to get himself together. I was like extremely out of shape. I didn't know I really didn't know who I was. I was like, I told Rod, like it was kind of like this pressure to be something that I knew really wasn't who I was. So I had to go on that journey. I had to start reading books. I had to start paying attention to seminars and find like black leaders in general that I thought were cool. Listen to different levels of music. Like watching movies was a big thing. Like getting into like that real like Oscar level, like award-winning level movies, not just the blockbuster stuff everybody watching. It was like reading a book by watching like a good movie was like life lessons for me. Into the Wild, what's up? And you know, so like I feel like I know I found out who I was, and it helped me stay grounded. But as I go deeper into knowing that, I know that there is no complete answer. There's just the moment and the possibility that something amazing, something out of me can be created. Like and that feeling like gives me like life. There's knowing that it's unlimited. It's whatever I feel like it needs to be. I have that ability. That's who I am. I am creation. You know what I mean? So like, that's how I look at the, who am I? But I also, the reason why I love that question, and I used to ask it a lot, is like, I find, and not that we need to really get into it right now, but just even the listeners, like, that's something like one of those things I would ask people to actually try to write out, like actually write it down. Like, when you say, I know who I am, like, well, write it. Like, what does it look like on paper? What does it look like when you're not trying to explain it to somebody? What does it look like when it's just something for you and you look at that? Is it one sentence? Is it a paragraph? Is it a book? You know what I mean? Like, and whatever that is, or is it like you don't know what to write? But that's, I think, why there's a relationship between what you have in your mind and your heart versus what you're actually able to like illustrate in the world. And I think sometimes we forget to start illustrating, which kind of goes into what we're talking about Black Astronaut, like this whole thing about like creating and making things happen, like being aware and like showing up. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like you can't just be thinking you the shit. Like, you got to show that you're a good person. There's so many people that are assholes that think they're good people. Like, in their mind, they're like, yeah, I'm not, but they're narcissist assholes. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, what are you showing? Like, forget what you think about who you are. What is it for real?
And that's the point. Like with storytelling, is in the book I'm reading, they mentioned how a lot of times people, like if you go on the dating site, people would be like, oh, I'm funny. Oh, I'm adventurous. I'm this and I'm that. I'm this. And they like, well, just post a picture that shows you white water rafting to show us that you're adventurous.
Right.
Like,
Facts.
you know, post something that shows you in action. Like you, if you're funny, say some funny stuff. You don't have to tell us you're funny. Like we'll see it or we'll experience it just by dealing with you. So stop telling us and start, like he's saying, showing us. And that's a good point.
Sorry, I just got it because I love you went into my bag. You went into my bag. I was like, once I heard that, I was like, no, real quick though. But because something that Rod said, this is something I learned when I moved to Atlanta, that it kind of goes into this who am I question, and it was something that really sobered me emotionally when I had to really look at this. And someone that was teaching me was like, all right, who are you when you walk in the room? Like, not necessarily even what you think you are, but how do people experience you? When you walk into a room, what are they getting? Mm-hmm. And be honest with yourself about that. Do you go in the corner? Do you quiet? Do you have that one conversation with one cool person and like y'all talk about something real? Are you a funny person? Are you a person that like inspires people? Are you a person that comes in and is an asshole? Are you like, in all honesty, like that's another way of getting into that real question about like when you walk into the room, what do you bring with you? Mm-hmm. And like, how do you exemplify that? And that's something that's changed the course of my life. And that's why, like, again, when I'm in the room, I just try to, whatever feels, being myself, but it's like, bring something. Yeah. Bring something. Don't be in your head about it. Like, bring something to people. Show service. Show love. Reach out. Connect. Check up on people. Like, if you're a loving person, how do you show that? Like, how do you really, you know what I mean? I think I'm not going to get into relationships right now, but I think this kind of goes a little bit into that discussion about what you think versus how you're actually showing up in life. Yeah. I think, yeah.
And it's important. Like, it is very important. So be intentional when you get into the rooms, because it matters. And I think y'all just said a lot of things, and this is why I said put your intentional listening ears on, because you mentioned the book. Maul, you mentioned, you started to read, you started watching actual movies, and you said not this little blockbuster stuff. Mm-hmm. Blockbuster not even a thing, y'all. So not this little Netflix.
You're showing our age. That was
not this little Netflix LOL stuff.
Not just streaming.
Where's the documentaries and the things that'll really make you think? But it's important because people don't realize how those things do actually help shift your life, help you change, help you think different. Even from you reading that book, it's making you think, like, instead of saying I am funny, show something where you are funny. Even with the storytelling, oh yeah, I'm funny. No, you're going to be telling a time where this is what happened, and you're going to tell it in a funny way so that people, it's just different. And Kamal, you didn't say limitless. You said I am a creative, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But it also, what you were saying, I was gathering is like, we are limitless. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We put limits on ourselves, on what we can and cannot do. I hope that everybody decides to become a Black astronaut and step outside of this like glass box. That's the problem. The box is glass, so you don't realize that you're putting yourself in it because it looks like it's not there when it is. So I hope that we all step outside, decide to bust through, break through, even if you got to chip away at it for a while, because we're so conditioned to go along with what everybody wants us to do or what we see in society that it becomes hard. But it's like, you got to start chipping, because if you don't, you won't find yourself being a Black astronaut. You'll find yourself being whatever everybody else telling you to be. So I think that all of these things are important. And I guess we kind of like slowly rounding off and wrapping up the conversation, and y'all have hits.
I don't know. I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something.
I'm trying to stay within your time frame. So get it. What we got?
The tape snap.
Come on. Give it to us.
No, because this giving me Drew vibes. I remember just having all these conversations, and I want to open the conversation up. But like when we talk about like the pressure to be a certain way, be in these boxes, like, what is, obviously fear is like the word you'll use, but like, what is it really that keeps people in place? Like, what is it really? Because that we all kind of know.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, roll.
For me, I think it's mindset. I really do think that it's the way that we think. I think that it's the way that you think about yourself. I think it's the way that you think about what's happening around you. Because mindset is a lot. Like, mindset is what you think about yourself, but it's also the comparison to what everybody else doing. And it's also, mindset becomes what you can and cannot do. A lot of times, if you don't see it, you don't even believe that it's true. And we could talk about this from like Obama being a black president. People, the feeling of it is because it was something we've never seen. We didn't even, to the point where we didn't think it was possible. And not just we, I'm talking about 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, because we didn't think in our mind that having a black president is, again, possible. Now think about that when it's like, being a millionaire or having a loving relationship, or, you know what I'm saying? We can be good parents. Sometimes people don't even, I don't believe in marriage. Why you don't believe in marriage? Because I ain't never seen no good marriage. That's a mindset. That's a mindset. But it's like, again, it goes back to that glass box, because you don't even realize that it's a mindset. It's just, if I ain't seen it, I don't think that I could do it. Or, you know, if people are telling me to go a certain way, I'ma just follow. In comparison to, it takes a lot of work, and that's another thing that I believe comes into place, because people don't want to do the work for change. It takes a lot to continue to shift your mindset. It requires reading, and we're not talking one book. We talking, you gotta, as you said, like, we are people who are ever evolving. You don't come into the just like, oh yes, I'm aware of myself and who I am right now is who I'm going to be. It's the continuous, it's the intentionality behind, I'm going to continue to grow and evolve and elevate, and I'm gonna do it over, and I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna do it again, and it's going to require work of me. It's going to require me being able to sit down and have real conversations with self. So therefore I can then go and communicate with the ones that I love, or the people, family, friends, whatever it is. And then you also talked about, see, this is why I say put your intentional listening ears on, because all of the gems that was dropped, you talked about hope going into belief. Like, yo, you gotta believe that you can be some of the things that you wanna be, or that you can live in the house that you wanna live in. Like, as a coach, the things that we learn is like, if you wanna live in a nice house and you currently, again, cause we all from urban areas, you might be from a 1-bedroom in Essex County somewhere, go to an open house in Milburn, in Short Hills, in Union, wherever. Go to these cities where you don't think that you belong. Go to these cities where you don't think that you can afford it. Why? So you could visualize yourself in there.
Correct.
If you don't believe it, how is it even going to become possible? It can't, because you don't even believe it for yourself. And y'all don't want me to get into the science, because when I start talking about science and neurons and how you send messages to your brain, in real talk though, if you keep sending negative messages to yourself through neurons, like, you can look this up. This is what sends messages from your brain throughout your body. Neuroplasticity, these are things that I'm learning in real time, that you can rewire and reorganize your brain in real time. It's like you have to keep doing it. You can't be telling yourself, I'm not worthy, I'm not cute, I will never be this, I'll never make this. Your body, these messages are being implanted, and they are staying with you, and therefore you're not going to be this or do that. You have to change the wiring. So I know that was a long answer, but that's just my
go off,
thoughts
Queen.
on it.
No, seriously, I loved it. That was amazing. That was amazing.
I agree with the mindset aspect of it, because it's really true, and I struggle with that every day as a father, husband, son, brother. You know, I tend to put myself in a box where I tend to not do things that benefit me, because I'm focused on everybody else. What's your need? What's your need? What's your need? What's your need? Okay, this person needs this today. This person needs that today. This person needs that. But where am I fulfilling myself if I can't actually do that, which is the box? So everybody else is outside of the box, and I'm stuck in the box. So I completely understand what you're saying, and I'm still trying to break out of that habit myself, to this day, of getting out of that box, because when you have a lot of responsibilities, it can become stressful, and I understand that. And
life don't stop.
Yeah, it don't stop. Yeah,
That part.
yeah.
real.
Like,
That
you know,
part.
but at the same time, to what you're saying, you have to take that time to think about self and what's going to benefit self.
Yeah.
And you know, I completely understand exactly what you're saying, because that's what I struggle with every single day. And
But to your point too, you know, a lot of times we can get into these spaces where we feel like we're by ourselves, and it's like nah, like your wife is there, your kids are there, like your fam, like your friends, like people are there. So like while it may feel like you're experiencing this stuff on your own, like they're getting some derivative of that from you too. So it's like it's something that everybody is experiencing. So to that point, I'm just saying that it's important for the community of people that you have around you too, right? If you got a whole bunch of negative people around you, it's gonna be hard to do something, right? It's the crabs in the barrel. They start seeing you doing something, they saying little negative stuff, saying little funny stuff, like, I'm just playing. But it's like, no, like, cause what you're playing about is you know, putting real emotions, right? Affecting my neurons, like got me sending negative messaging to myself because you want to tell some joke that you feel like is not that serious.
Facts.
Right.
So,
but that could also be hidden in hate too, you know?
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
like- and to Marcus's point real quick too, I think just as a black woman watching and sitting with black men, it's unfortunate, but society puts so much on you all, and you're not supposed to say anything or feel away or have emotions. You're supposed to, like, you know, Marcus, kudos to you for even saying, you know, I struggle with this on a day-to-day. I got a wife, a kid, you know what I mean, kids, and I'm parents, whatever. Like, the list literally goes on. And I feel like what I've seen as far as black men is like, I'm not even supposed to talk about how this is stressful. I'm not even supposed to open my mouth to be like, yo, the weight of the world is, you know, on
my
me.
shoulders.
You know what's interesting about that also? Like, because, you know, I'm a man, right? So, like, in all honesty, like, when, at least my friends, when we get together, and not even just the goons, like certain dudes, like certain pedigree of men, we actually do talk about these things. We just don't talk about it to the public.
Yeah,
like, we
facts.
keep it within the locker room. Like, it's like, and it goes like what you're saying. We're not because it's not supposed to be shared everywhere. But there is a place where it does happen, I find, in certain situations. And I don't know if that's like, should that be different? You see what I'm saying? Like, should it be something that the world knows, or is this something that we are just engineered different? Like, we kind of work better when in the cave, so to speak. I'm asking a question. I'm not saying this is how it has to be.
So I'm not a man. I think that part of it is you all are conditioned for it to be in the cave. So it comes across natural. I think it's twofold. I think some of it should be in the cave, but I think that as a woman, it needs to come out the cave for certain people.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
definitely.
saying? Like,
100%.
if you in a relationship or you married or
Yeah, you
whatever,
can't be
and
all-
then you know, even I have a young black son. I'm hoping that as he gets older, he can come to me to talk about things that are cave talk, because even with it being cave talk, it's a release. But I don't, from the outside looking in, I don't think it's enough.
yeah, it's tough to speak about stuff with your mom, right? Like, just using Maul example earlier, it's like, even if you want to tell your mother certain stuff, it's hard because, like, that emotional response is
nurture
like,
comes
you know,
in.
it's
It's
like,
like,
as much as you want to be like a friend, it's like at some point that parent go kick back on.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened? It's
What?
like,
What did- what-
That's women in general. That's women. Just
my mother done cried from stuff that could have happened.
like, sis, I'm good. I'm good.
But I do agree, though, there should be a balance, though, for sure, 100%. I agree.
And I feel like women, we have to make sure we are providing a safe space. I've been having a lot of conversations
100%.
with my friends about that. Like, are we doing enough to provide a space to you feel comfortable, even if it's not all of the cave/locker room talk, but you feel comfortable saying, like, hey, I am very stressed right now. Like, this is on my head, this is on my head, this is on my head. But if we don't provide the space, it ain't gonna happen. So,
Facts. That's real.
you know, I'm just throwing out
The
that
space for
out there, too.
understanding one another, for real. That's real.
Yeah, communication is just key in any relationship
That
you
part.
in.
That
I don't
part.
care who it's with.
One-
It's just important, you know.
One part I wanted to say in relation to the stuff we were talking about earlier, and I just feel this in relation to everything we said about like the box, getting out of the box, staying in the box, and possibly finding acceptance of the box too. Because sometimes it's like we get in a space where we don't appreciate what we have sometimes, and it's like sometimes there's a lot of dope shit around you. Like sometimes it's just you gotta like, because I know acceptance is one of my challenges. So like sometimes I have to like put all the astronaut down stuff and just be like, yo, you doing all right, bro. Like you good, man. Stop being so hard on yourself. And that's kind of the point that I wanted to get at. There's also like, my mom says this all the time. She'd be like, and it's probably the most healing thing she does, says, stop being so hard on yourself.
I hear that a lot,
Stop being so
too.
hard on yourself. Like, and I think about, as it relates to trying to, like, what keeps us in the box. I think there's a negative relationship with the emotions that are necessary to grow. Like, we just wanted to feel good. We wanted to feel good, but there's a process. It requires both. It requires the good and the bad. You're not going to get to the destination unless you have a better relationship with the down that comes, with the questions that comes, with the friends laughing at you, with the, you might fuck up a bunch of times. Like, it might not work a couple times. Like, you have to realize that is a part of the journey. I think a lot of people get afraid of that feeling, and they're rushing towards good feelings and those neurons that aren't about building. They're more about like lying and delusion. And then they're wondering, why is it not hitting? Because then you can still make it, but then you still feel like something's wrong because those emotions aren't really balanced, I think. It's something I was watching from Dr. Drew. I love Dr. Drew, that's my guy. And like, he'd be talking about a lot of stuff with addicts and stuff of that nature and the things they could deal with to rehabilitate themselves. And one thing he always talks about that he finds often with addicts is they run away from certain emotions, and because of that, they run towards something else, like full steam, anything to get them away. And for them to come back, like for them to, like, he always says the road to recovery requires them to face it. You're never going to get healed unless you run through all that. You got to face every single bit of it. And I think, although this talks about addicts, I look at it like everybody to a degree can relate to this. Like, if you're not willing to sit in your darkness and get help that you might need to walk through that, or get a more supportive situation, find books, whatever you like, I just feel like at the end of the road, you might not feel at the peace that you're looking for, because the journey within that negative is like where the real like healing is, right? Yeah, like, and I think that's another reason why people, like, and especially from experience, stay in the box, because it's like, I don't want to step out here, because if I step out here, it's going to be it's hard. Like, it's not going, it's cool over here. Like, it's nice over here. You know, people like me over here. I don't like me, but they like me. So how do I just step out? Now I got to leave the crew. I got to leave the state. I got to leave the job. I got to leave the marriage. Man, it's so much. And I understand that that's real. So who knows what people's journeys is, but I think that's a part to add to the conversation.
And to your point, I feel like, sometimes, because I'm learning to do that, sometimes it's good to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
And that's why I learned, I know I told y'all about the Grandmaster, but that's one thing he's taught me. Like, sometimes it's all right to be like, you know what?
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, you did a good job today. Or
if you think about like where you were, where we are now, like a lot of us are in the place that we wanted to put ourselves in, right? Like, sometimes you say this and people get offended by it because maybe their life isn't exactly the way they want it to be, but we all created the life that we live in right now. You live where you live, you drive where you drive, you work where you work, you wear what you wear, because those are the decisions that you made. And ultimately, to Maul's point, like, you can keep making decisions to change your life, right? Set a goal, write it down, get help, whatever you need to do, but we all are in a place that we want to be ultimately.
And I agree with that 1,000%. Like, the life that we have is the life that we have created for ourselves, as it was just stated. And we have to think about that in the aspect of being a Black astronaut. What life have you created for yourself? Are you sitting with your gear on and you haven't gone anywhere? Have you decided to, I'm gonna start marching forward? Are you in the galaxy? Like, and I mean, obviously not literally, but really thinking about this, where do you stand? What is the life that is presently yours? And is it one that you want to live? Is it one that you like? Is it one that you enjoy? And this is no judgment, but the reminder is that at any given point, you could change. Any given point. At any given point, you can make a decision to change your reality, period. It does not matter how old you are. So I hope that we all remember that. I hope that we are all reminded that we are our own Black astronaut, and the thing is just how you living. How you living. So thank you all very much. Mar, you got any final words?
Y'all already know what it is, man. I love y'all. We all love Drew. This is a beautiful moment. We're going to keep these moments going up to the amazing liftoff on 11/11. So I'm just thankful for the vibes, and I hope everyone vibed with us. It was a good vibe for sure for us, and I'm happy to be here. 100%.
Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it.
All right, peace,
Bye,
y'all.
everybody.
Peace.
Taking off to face your fears. A quest to find what's really real inside. Fight for what isn't right. Never underestimate the power that's inside.